Hi, good morning and hello and welcome to today's boot camp, Tuesday, November 17th. We are all excited for you to join us today. Before we get started with our presentation, we do want to remind you of all the different resources that Arizona Commerce Authority has to offer. Again, my name is Faith Ritchie and I'm the Small Business Programs Manager here at the ACA, filling in for usual host Robert Theobald. Before we get into talking about our different resources, like always, we have to give credit to our amazing community partners and presenters who have helped us to develop this content to make our businesses stronger. And so we just have to thank them. We are coming up on our 100th boot camp, and we could not have done this with all these amazing people. As a reminder, the ACA Small Business Bootcamp and Resource Collective was designed to help prepare small businesses of less than 20 employees emerge from the COVID crisis stronger than ever. It is a statewide initiative that is supported by our amazing community partners. And we'd like to announce that it is going to be running through January 2021. So while we are excited that it's going through December, we are also making it last through the next year. So make sure you are keeping track of all the great content to come. If you have missed one of our previous sessions, or if there's information you would like to go and review, those boot camps and PowerPoint presentations are listed on our website at azcommerce.com/small business bootcamp. Along with the bootcamp recording and PowerPoint presentations is also our resource collective. The Resource Collective is additional statewide resources for businesses, regardless of industry. So if you're looking to strengthen your business or to combat mitigation efforts, you can check out our Resource Collective. And here's just a snapshot of those different resources available. Some financial updates. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program, Main Street Lending Program, and the City of Yuma and Maricopa County grants are still available. You can learn more information at these links or by visiting our website for more information. Additionally, COVID-19 mitigation information can be found on our website as well at azcommerce.com/COVID-19. And it's also a great time while you're on our website to look into the different programs that the ACA has to offer, from small business resources to Arizona at Work and Arizona Manufacturing Extension Partnership. If you are looking to begin a business, strengthen your business, or expand your business, there are programs out there to help you. So we recommend that regardless of industry, you look into those programs to see if you can benefit. The Small Business Checklist is an interactive and intuitive online resource that helps to guide individuals looking for local, state, and federal licensing and registration information. So again, if you are starting or expanding, this is a great opportunity to make sure that everything is registered and licensed correctly and get those information that is needed. And again, at our website, azcommerce.com/smallbiz. And last but not least, if we do not have the COVID-19 information that you are looking for on our website, we do recommend visiting arizonatogether.org for all additional COVID-19 information and resources. Now, again, this slide is a little bit full than what you normally see, and that is because tomorrow we are hosting a special session boot camp for a restaurant relief webinar. Again, this is not limited to restaurants only. If you are a retail industry or if you are just a regular business owner, this is an opportunity to see how to increase profits by leveraging temporary expansion of premises. And so it's great information. We have a lot of community partners that are coming on to our webinar tomorrow to kind of walk us through that process. And so a lot of great information to be had there. And then Thursday, growing your sales with eBay, as the holiday sales are inching closer. I can't get over that Thanksgiving is coming up, but so is Christmas and other holidays. And so this is just going to be a great option to potentially be more profitable in the holiday season. But while you're all here today is how to effectively reduce costs and increase productivity. And that is why I am so excited to welcome Carmen Payne. She is presenting with us today. Carmen has nearly 3 decades of business consulting experience. She is bringing us an interactive presentation, and so we are so excited for everyone to really walk away with tangible items and goals for their business. And so, Carmen, without any further ado, I want to go ahead and turn it over to you. And thank you again so much for being with us today.
Certainly, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much, Faith. Let me go to share screen. And while we're setting up, I'd like to invite everyone, if you haven't already printed out your handouts for this session, please go ahead and print those out because you will need them in just a couple of minutes. We're going to be hands-on today. And if you don't have those handouts, please feel free to put your information in the chat box or send an email to lisaw@azcommerce.com. Okay, lisaw@azcommerce.com, or request to receive those handouts in the chat box. So thank you and good morning, everyone. I'm excited for you to be here. I'm excited to be here this morning. And I'm going to jump right into our content and set everything up for you and just let you know right off the bat what my goal is today. So my goal is to deliver to you an enlightening and immediately useful and profitable hands-on session. I don't want to sit here and just be a talking head. There will be teaching, but you will be using those handouts. So for those of you who have already printed them, those getting ready to print them, it's a series of 5 pages of handouts. Do not be afraid. You're only going to use the last 2 pages to complete today. The first 3 are examples, so that as I show you the examples and walk through them on the screen, you're able to hold them in your hand as well. Okay, so to achieve my goal, I wanted to just start by saying we're all going through a challenging time right now. And when this first started back in March, the first question or the first challenge or first problem to address may have simply been, what to do. This came upon us unaware, and businesses, whether it's a solopreneur business, one person show, whether you have 10 or 20 employees, the very first challenge was, wow, exactly what are we going to do here? Some of your businesses may have moved into the next phase, which is, okay, you're breathing a little sigh of relief. We made it this far, but what do we do now? And some of you may be fortunate enough to have moved through both of those stages and now be in the stage where you're able to start thinking about, where is the opportunity in all of this, right? Where's the opportunity that comes when times change as dramatically as they have for us this year? And so regardless of which space you may find yourself in, my goal today is to help you with all of that. Okay, so again, please print your handouts out if you haven't printed them already. Send an email, a note in the chat box to Lisa, and she will get you that link to those handouts. You will need them in just a moment. So let's move forward. So this presentation was actually called, what's going to help reduce costs and increase productivity daily? And it's actually just one simple question. And that one simple question is, why? Why are we doing what we're doing? Why do we do it the way that we do it? Why is this happening? You can phrase many valuable questions starting with just that one simple question. Why? It was Einstein who once said, if he had 1 hour to solve a problem, he would spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and only 5 minutes thinking about the solution. I want to say that again. The genius Einstein said, if I had 1 hour to solve a problem, I'll spend 55 minutes thinking about the problem and only 5 minutes thinking about the solution. And the challenge for us today is, we are in such a fast-paced society, we kind of have the inverse of that happening. We spend all our time thinking about solutions, but rarely do we stop and say, you know what, let me slow down for a moment and get really clear on what is the problem that I am setting out to solve. And so what I want to say to you today is, we don't have to be a genius like Einstein to ask this question, or to approach it in this manner, because we have an example in front of us every day. It can be your children, can be your grandchildren. In my case, children have no problem asking the question, why? They ask why, and then when you give an answer, they ask you why again. And that is actually what this process is that we're going to walk through this. The challenge for us adults is we kind of lose our curiosity and we lose some of our humility because we oftentimes think we already know the answer. And so we don't slow down long enough to just ask why. And I like to share that many times we want to get into a flow. But if you want to get into a flow, you have to go slow. Okay. So this season of problem solving is affording us an opportunity to slow down before we try to go fast. Because when we go fast, when we quickly or hip shoot and solve problems because we think we understand what it really is, the majority of the time, unfortunately, what we're doing is addressing symptoms, but we are not actually addressing the problem. So the tools I'm going to show you today are to help you get out of symptoms and get into the core of the problem. So why ask why? The 5 whys tool. I want to give you just a very quick history here. In the 1920s is when this first came into concept, known as the industrial era. And back in the industrial era, everything was about producing quality in a repeatable manner to optimize costs. Producing quality in a repeatable manner to optimize cost. And so I'll just mention a couple of names because I like to give credit where credit is due. The gentleman who is credited with bringing the 5 whys, with inventing the 5 whys, was named Sakichi Toyoda. Yes, Toyota. And he was known as the Japanese Thomas Edison. And the whole premise of this was to go out to the production floor to learn where the flaws were in the production process. But to do that, you had to depersonalize the problem. You had to look at it objectively. You had to take a different perspective and ask the question, why is this happening? And then when you got to that answer, why is it happening? Then you even question that answer with, well, why is that? And that's why it's called the 5 whys tool, because in concept, you're asking yourself a series of 5 whys to get to the core of the problem, as opposed to the symptoms, which are what you usually come up with at first. In the 50s, the Toyota production system took this 5 whys concept and made it mainstream. And in the 60s, some of you on the phone, maybe on this call, may be familiar with Dr. Edward Demings, and he is the master of continuous improvement. And he actually went into Toyota and trained their top managers and their engineers on how to improve how they worked and learned together. So I don't know if anyone wants to drop a note in the chat box if you've used this 5 whys tool before. That would be nice to know. And you can also share what your results may have been. And so I want to make one quick note here before we jump to the next slide and finish up with this 1970s to present. The whole point here is that a problem well defined is a problem half solved. A problem well defined is a problem half solved. I've seen this quote attributed to several, so I don't want to say who actually was the originator of the quote. It's not mine, but I have seen in my own life personally and in business as well, that when I can take the time, slow down, and really define what the problem is, you're halfway there. So in the 70s to present, this 5 whys tool is now being used with Kaizen. Some of you may have heard of Kaizen, lean manufacturing, Six Sigma, and it is used to eliminate waste, to streamline efforts, and to reduce cost while increasing efficiency, productivity, and profits. So let's jump into our next slide here. Please don't be intimidated by this slide. And I must give credit where credit is due here. In the bottom right, you will see the copyright is Mr. David L. Freed. He is a colleague of mine in another business group. He had this slide in a different presentation, and I asked him for the ability to use it, and he gave it, and I'm so thankful. So changing times bring a change in focus. So as you see in this slide, it says the industrial era, which is what I spoke about first. So in the 1920s to 1990s, the company's focus was producing quality in a repeatable manner to optimize costs. Now look at the changing times. We are now in the knowledge era, or the era of the internet, if you will. And now we're all competing in a global marketplace for customers and employees, which drives home the importance of being effective problem solvers. So with the change in times came also a very big change in the market dynamic. So if you look at that third row, that first yellow arrow, you see the market dynamic shifted. In the industrial era, the dynamic in the marketplace was that customers were loyal to the brand, right? Whatever you bought, if you drove a Ford, you drove a Ford. If you drove a Chevy, you drove a Chevy. If you only shopped at one store, that was the store you shopped at. Customers were loyal to the brand. Everything was about brand reputation, and everything was about quality. Well, enter the knowledge age, the advent of the internet, and customers now go where their needs are met. This is why the knowledge must be in the minds of the employees. It can no longer just be the top down. The CEO knows everything that's going on, and everything else becomes a silo. Customers are going to go where their needs are best met. And we as business owners have to continually evolve our processes and our business approaches to be aware that customers are going to go wherever their needs are best met. Again, the knowledge must be in the minds of employees, and organizational agility is a must. We must be able to move just like you've done throughout this crisis. Now you also see there's a huge change in the business life expectancy. This is, if the first dynamic wasn't enough, I hope that this one is. Look at the huge change in business life expectancy with the change of the eras. In the industrial era, the business life expectancy was approximately 80 years. Brands and businesses were around for the long haul, approximately 80 years. And you can see some of those market leader names under there. And you can also see that some of those market leader names are not around today. Now go to the knowledge era, the information age. The business life expectancy has dropped from approximately 80 years to approximately 10 years. That is a huge red flag. And it's also a huge opportunity to continue to evolve our businesses. And you can see some of those market leader names under there, from Amazon to Apple, right? iPhones, Netflix, Walmart, Kyocera. Kyocera was actually known as the company that first put the camera in the phone. And you've got Samsung. And so the only point I want to make off of this change in business life expectancy, because I've had business owners ask me before, why is that? Well, there's a footnote on there, and there's a lot of data behind that in this research that David Fried has compiled and is working on his PhD. So the biggest point I wanted to bring out of that, we all know why, actually. It's counterfeitability. It is the ability for other products and services to quickly clone or knock you off. And an example of that would be Uber, right? Uber came in. I didn't even know what the name Uber was. I was at a conference and I just kept hearing everyone say about Uber. They got an Uber and I was like, wow, I'm late. I don't know what Uber is. Well, by the time I knew what Uber was, they had already been knocked off. Uber came in and disrupted the taxi industry, but they were quickly cloned. Okay. So I want to share one information note with you from the Harvard Business Review, which is one of my sources of information. The Harvard Business Review has a quote that goes right along with this business life expectancy shift. And it is that as the shelf life of business strategies grows shorter, and you can see dramatically shorter, our transformation capability becomes our only enduring advantage. Our ability to quickly transform, to stay agile, actually becomes our only enduring competitive advantage. So the point here, as we move on, and I get you to start working on your handout, knowledge is necessary. We're in the knowledge era. Google something and look at all of the information that it brings up. Yes, knowledge is necessary, but there's a wealth of knowledge out there. So the reality is that knowledge is necessary, but it is no longer sufficient. We have to do something with the information that we have. And a simple example that one CEO said to me in a seminar a couple of months ago, he said, yeah, that makes sense. There are a lot of people on my team that see that there's a hole in the boat, but there's only one or two people who are willing to fix the hole in the boat. So I hope that makes this tangible for everyone and why there needs to be a sense of urgency around our transformation capability. The days of the dinosaur business stays around longer than, you know, your life expectancy. Those days are gone. So here is the 5 whys technique in a nutshell. We don't have time to cover this all today. We're going to focus on step 3, but you can feel free to understand that if you're going to use this with a bigger team, so that it's not just you solving a problem and coming to the table with your perspective of the solution, you actually form the cross-functional team. You define what the initial problem or effect is. I'll get into that in just a second. You ask why to detect the root cause of the problem. Again, if you're doing this with a team, you then evaluate and verify the answers. You take action and address the root cause, and you monitor your measures. We don't have time for that today. We're simply focused today on asking why to detect the root cause of initial problem. So here we go. If you would please look in your handouts, pull out your page 5. Your page 5 looks exactly like this worksheet on the screen. And our goal today is for everyone on this call to complete this worksheet, and I'm going to walk you through it step by step. I would prefer that this not be an exercise that you leave the call and try to complete later, because you will have lost your perspective, and your mind is going to be in a certain case, in a certain place, through this call, that it's going to be easier to complete now. So if you would please pull out this worksheet, it's page 5 in your handouts, and we're going to start right away with completing the first section on here. So my slide says get a glimpse of winning. And the reason why I have a get a glimpse of winning is if you can just imagine your favorite sports team or whatever your favorite activity is that involves getting to a finish line. Can you imagine how hard it would be for, let's say, football players? I love football. It would be very difficult to celebrate at the end of a game if there was never an end of the game and if you never knew when you actually won. So it's very important for teams to get a glimpse of what does winning look like for my team, okay? So what we're going to do right now is on this slide, it says, as it relates to the change or the growth that you are now seeking, whatever the problem or challenge is that we're going to address on this call right now, as it relates to that change or that growth, which one of these is more true? Is it that you're looking to stop something from happening? Or is it that you're looking to have or achieve something? And there is a difference. So which is more true? And please go ahead and answer that question on your winning results worksheet. And the first section on your winning results worksheet, everyone has this worksheet. The first section says growth catalyst, right? What's the focus that's initiating your change? And it says, which is more true? So please just put an X or circle or a check mark. Which one is more true for you right now on the problem that we're getting ready to address? Are you looking to stop something from happening, or are you looking to have or achieve something? Okay. The last point I want to make here quickly is there is a difference in playing to win versus playing not to lose. There's a huge difference in playing to win versus playing not to lose. And so that's why we want to get clear on which one of these is more true. Next, we need to deal with what I call the dirt. Dealing with the dirt is, DIRT stands for do it right this time. Many times we've addressed problems and we don't do it the right way. We bump our heads, we come up against something, but if we don't stop and get introspective about it to understand why didn't we achieve that goal? Why did we fall short? Then we're not dealing with the dirt well enough. So in dealing with the dirt, you have 4 questions here, and it is to help you complete section 2 on your winning results worksheet. Okay, your winning results worksheet. And your winning results worksheet has a question, and it says, what must you deal with this time to create the opportunity to win? So here's 4 different questions. I'll read them off to you. And based on which one hits you as we go through, that's what you're going to write in. What must I deal with this time? To be clear, you're not writing the questions. I'm using these 4 questions to stimulate thought so that you can complete section 2 on your worksheet. So the first question is, how are you feeling about how your team currently solves business problems? The second question, how prepared do you feel your teams and your workforce are for the 1 to 3 years ahead of us? Next question, what strengths have you not leveraged enough? And the next question, which organizational process needs overhaul or redesign the most? So now that I've asked you those 4 questions, they're still on the screen. Give that a thought for just 10 seconds and write down your answer on your winning results worksheet. What must you deal with this time to create the opportunity to win? I'll give everyone 10 seconds for that. And to Lisa, if there's any questions that I need, you can feel free to let me know as I keep going. I'm going to jump further in. Okay, so now on your winning results worksheet, everyone should now have their growth catalyst marked, the one that's more true for you. And you should have what must you deal with this time to create the opportunity to win. You should have those 2 sections of your worksheet completed. Because remember, it's very difficult to celebrate if you don't know when you've won. And winning is the only real path to sustainability. Setting a goal, achieving that goal, and continuing to move forward. That is what creates sustainability. So if there's any questions, please let me know. And we're going to jump into the meatier part of the presentation right now. Okay, fishbone diagram. You have 3 of these in your handouts. And again, they're just for the purpose of touching. I just want you to know to have those 3 ready. And I'm getting ready to walk you through those as we prepare to get into the core of the exercise. So this is called a fishbone diagram. And this diagram is a structured brainstorming tool that uses categories to explore the potential root cause for an undesired effect. I'm using the word undesired effect because our brains don't like to hear the word problem. Sometimes our brains shut down. So it's just a nicer term that enables our brain to help us when we jump into the 5 whys questions. So instead of just saying, what problem am I solving? We're actually going to use the term going forward, undesired effect. So if everyone can say that where you're sitting right now, just say that out loud in where you're seated, undesired effect. Because the truth is a problem or a challenge brings an undesired effect. And it's ultimately the undesired effect that we are trying to fix. So some other terminology for you quickly is if you see the machinery, the methods, the management, materials, and manpower on this fishbone diagram, those are called cause categories. Cause categories. Again, this is a structured brainstorming tool that uses categories ultimately to help us focus. Because if you just ask your brain to give you an answer to a problem, your brain is going to throw out a series of different answers. None of them will probably be the root cause. One maybe, but usually it's a bunch of symptoms. And it's difficult often to organize those symptoms. So this is a structured brainstorming tool that's going to use categories to help you explore the potential root cause for the undesired effect that you're seeing. Okay, so the yellow you see undesired effect, that's just the fish head, and the machinery and the methods, like I said, those are the cause categories. And then those lines connecting them to the spine are like fish bones, and those are just the potential causes. Okay, so here we go. So if you would grab page 1 in your handout, page 1 in your handout is here on the screen also. I'm going to walk you through this, and not to fear, you will be doing this in just a moment. So you can see on this fishbone diagram, this is a sample people fishbone diagram. Okay, People, meaning a potential people issue, a people problem, a people undesired effect. Okay. And then you can see the 6 cause categories on this fishbone, starting at the top right, moving left. So a cause category on the people fishbone is motivation. Why is there a people undesired effect? It could be motivation. Skills and knowledge, could be performance feedback, could be job expectations at the bottom left, could be environment and tools, could be organizational support. Those 6 items are potential cause categories. Okay. And you can see under each of those on those bones, that's where we would then write in, well, what would be the potential cause under that cause category? So this, again, for terminology's sake, is a sample people fishbone, a people undesired effect. And the only point I want to make here before moving forward is this is not about blaming personnel. It's not about pinning the problem on a person. That's not how the 5 whys process came about. Because if you remember what I said earlier, it was about looking at the production floor with no preconceived notion and trying to understand through a series of questions why there was a problem in the production, why there was a problem, what's the source of the problem in the process. So this is not saying, oh, we're looking to blame Susie or blame Sam. This is about using these diagrams, using 5 whys, asking the question why 5 times is ultimately about identifying a system or a process issue, not blaming a person. Okay. If you would go to page 2 now, you have another sample strategy fishbone in your handouts. So this strategy fishbone, again, a potential strategy undesired effect. There are 6 cause categories: people management, process policy, platform equipment machines, bottom left, materials, environment, or measurements. Those are the most common cause categories when there is a undesired effect in strategy. Okay. So now let me walk you through quickly a completed strategy fishbone with cause categories and causes, because this is what we're getting ready to do next. And just know I will be asking for a volunteer in just a couple of minutes. So please decide who would like to be the volunteer to come off mute and allow me to walk you through this simple process. But I want you to see the end result of the process here as far as using this fishbone tool to help organize the thought processes and get focused. Okay, so this is page 3 in your handouts. Again, this is a strategy fishbone, a strategy undesired effect. So I will give you another term here, which is called initial problem A. And you can see that on my screen in bright yellow. So we're going to now call this undesired effect. Well, what is the initial problem I'm getting ready to solve? Which is exactly what you're getting ready to do in just a moment. Okay, so this is a real life client that I had. Okay, he came to me with the problem that he saw was that he was unable to grow revenue. And there may be some of you on the call that have this undesired effect. I have had this undesired effect in my business, and I have used these tools to help me get clear on what was the cause. Okay, so this client had a 30-year-old business, was making 3.7 million in annual revenue. And his desire, which was why it was important to decide earlier what was most important to you, his desire was to be able to exit his business on his terms and at his price. Okay, so he came with, I'm unable to grow revenue. So through the course of conversations and a couple of consultations, 2 initial meetings, this is what I uncovered. And I will start with the people management. And I'm just going to use those 2 because in our exercise, we're going to identify the 2 potential cause categories, and then we're going to attach some sub causes under there. So under the people management side, again, throughout the course of 2 different consultation conversations, this is where I listed some of what I learned from him. There was a CEO ego problem. This is not unheard of. CEOs all have this issue. We all have to learn to be humble. But these were his terms, not mine. He said CEO ego. Okay. There was leadership team conflict. If everyone's following me under the people management cause that I have circled in purple at the top of the screen. There was the lack of a growth strategy. You can see some of the others on the next one, for example, left, process policy. There were undocumented business processes. There were unproductive meetings. Some of this may sound familiar to some of you. Go down to the bottom. In the environment, I labeled the lack of trust that existed in the company. There was complacency about where they were in the company, and there was nepotism. There were several relatives in this business. Okay, so I listed those items under environment. If you see measurements to the right, bottom right, unclear goals and priorities, again, those are symptoms. And no department KPIs, key performance indicators. There were no metrics to track. So after I kind of did those two consultations, this is where I listed that information. And at the end of that, which is what we're going to do here, instead of trying to deal with everything, you have to start zeroing in on things. And I zeroed in on the people management, which I circled in purple, and I zeroed in on the environment, because I felt those were the two key things that were the two key undesired effect causes that we were going to have to address to even not just grow revenue, but address the bigger problem that truly existed. So if you want to see the end result of that, look at the bottom of your page 3 in your handouts that you're already looking at, this completed strategy fishbone. So you can see at the bottom, I had initial problem A, as he saw it, was the inability to grow revenue. But the more clearly defined problem B, after we went through this process, was actually a lack of know-how and skill set to lead the team in achieving the next level. It was not unable to grow revenue. That was a symptom. The problem was the lack of know-how and skill set to lead the team in getting to the next level. Okay, so let's move forward. It's now your turn. So if you would please listen carefully. You are going to, number one, don't overthink. I like to let everyone know, don't overthink this and make this hard. Don't try to solve everything. We're going to go step by step so your brain can help you. So your turn now means to identify a current team problem or undesired effect. What is an undesired effect that you would like to use our next 15 minutes or so to get to the bottom of? And yes, this can be done. And I need to say this first. This tool is most helpful for simple to immediately difficult problems. You know, this is not for, you know, very sophisticated problems, but I trust that we all have something that's simple to moderately difficult that we can solve for today. So you are going to get that in your head, which could have already been spurred. If you look at your worksheet, go back to your worksheet here, your winning results worksheet. Right? You already completed your growth catalyst and you decided which was more true for you. And you already completed section 2, which is what must you deal with this time to create the opportunity to win. So now that should engender for you a potential undesired effect. Everyone with me there? So if you would please then choose the fishbone, either page 1 in your handouts or page 2 in your handouts that I just went through. You're either using the sample people fishbone, or you're using the sample strategy fishbone. Let me say that again. You're either using the sample people fishbone, or you're using the sample strategies fishbone. And the way to tell that is to look at those cost categories and see which ones kind of speak to the undesired effect you're getting ready to solve for. Okay, everyone with me? Choose one sample fishbone. It's either going to be the first one, which was people, or it's going to be the second one, which is strategy. And once you choose that one, please put the other one face down and aside so you don't confuse yourself or get sidetracked. So choose that sample fishbone, either people or strategy, and go ahead and write your undesired effect on the head of that fishbone. And I'm going to go back just a second to make sure I don't lose anybody here. This is what I'm talking about, everyone. So if you're using the sample strategy fishbone, you are now going to write your undesired effect right here on the head. Just write it under there. That's your initial problem A, undesired effect. Okay, everyone with me? I hope so. You've got your initial problem A, whatever you think it is, you label it that on that fishbone. Okay, next step, circle 2 cause categories that are most likely linked to that undesired effect. Circle 2 cause categories, as I did here. I circled people management and I circled environment. So on the sample fishbone that you chose, please write your initial problem A statement on the fishbone head, and then please circle 2 of the cause categories that are most likely linked to your undesired effect. Now, one more step. Go ahead and add at least 1 potential cause under those cause categories. Add at least 1 potential cause under the 2 cause categories you just selected, as I did here. On my example, you can see I labeled 2 or 3 different potential causes under the cause category. But for the sake of this exercise right now, list at least 1. You know, why did you circle environment if that's what you circled? What are some of the potential causes in there under environment? If you circled people management on the strategy fishbone, what are some of those potential causes under that cause category? And I'm going to give everyone about 15 seconds to finish that without me talking. So let me put the slide back up on what you're doing. You are choosing either the people or strategy sample fishbone. You're circling 2 cause categories most likely linked to that undesired effect. And you're going to add at least 1 potential cause under those cause categories. And I'll give you 10 more seconds. If you've added 1 and your brain's giving you more, keep right on writing while your brain's in that space. Okay. Next. And this is this is my last slide, and then I'm going to ask for a brave volunteer to allow me to help them complete this so that everyone can see it's actually really not difficult. It's just about getting your brain in a space that it can complete it. So if you look here, I have side by side a completed 5 whys and a winning results worksheet. Okay, and this is what you're going to have as soon as we're done. So the completed winning results worksheet, again, using the example client that I just gave you, on the right side of my screen, what was more true for him was that he wanted to have or achieve something, regardless of the fact that he thought his problem was the inability to grow revenue. What he really wanted was to have or to achieve something, which was an exit on his terms and at his price. He wanted to have or achieve something. He wasn't trying to stop something from happening. It was more true that he wanted to have or achieve something. Okay. Continuing on the right side of the screen, the dirt he had to deal with was that his team was not ready for the next 1 to 3 years. It was going to hinder his ability to exit on his terms and at his price. Okay. The bulk of the work we're getting ready to get into is how to complete section 3, 4, and 5. I'm walking you through this completed, and then we're going to complete yours. So the growth quest, I like the word quest. Okay, what are you pursuing? The growth quest. We had to get to a more clearly defined problem. Everyone following along with me in the growth quest section here. So the initial problem A, you recall, was he perceived it to be an inability to grow revenue. So let me jump over now to the left side of the screen. Everyone with me. And this on the left side of my screen is your page 4 in your handouts. So we're getting ready to do page 4 and complete your winning results worksheet. Okay. So on the left side of the screen, you see the 5 whys, questions, and process. So what did he perceive the problem to be? What was the undesired effect? His original undesired effect in his terms was the inability to grow revenue. Okay, so then now the way to do this is you ask the question, well, why is that happening? Why are you unable to grow revenue? So then using my fishbone diagram and all of those symptoms that I had mapped out, my first answer to this was egos and conflict, right? The egos and the conflict are definitely going to hinder that. Well, why are there egos and conflict? Notice how I ask why to the previous answer. Why were there egos and conflict? And I came up with the nepotism that existed in the environment. Well, why is there nepotism in the environment? Because of a lack of trust. Well, why was there a lack of trust? Because there was what's called the fear of the empty seat. And experienced business owners and CEOs knows what this is. You may have someone in a seat, you may need to replace that teammate, because again, we're looking at what is the system or process, not to blame Susie or Sally or Jim. There was a fear of the empty seat. He didn't want to go through having to fire someone, replace someone, all of that stuff you go through. So there was a lack of trust because there was a fear of the empty seat. The fear of the empty seat was the cause, okay? So why is there fear of the empty seat? Because there was an unprofessional team building TPs versus the team tower. Those are my terms that I use. An unprofessional team builds tiny little TPs, also called silos. You know, my little world, get out, let me do my little thing. If you have an unprofessional team building TPs, there's no way they're working on building the team tower. There's no way we're working on completing the bigger vision for the organization. Okay, well, why was there an unprofessional team building TPs versus a team tower? Because of a lack of know-how and skill set to lead the team in achieving the next level. He didn't know how to get them trained up to be professionals. He didn't know how to address the fear of the empty seat. He didn't know how to address those challenges. And again, if we humble ourselves, we don't know everything. We don't have the answer to everything. We all need to reach out to professionals for help in one way or another sometimes. So you can see here what started at the top as the perceived undesired effect of unable to grow revenue. That's an effect, but the core root cause was the lack of know-how and skill set to lead the team in achieving the next level. So as I wrap up here and go back to the right on the growth quest, the more clearly defined problem as we do this process for you, you now come to the end and no, it's not unable to grow revenue. My more clearly defined problem is lack of knowledge and skill set to lead the team in achieving the next level. The step 2 under there says, identify the first cause category linked to the effect that should be further explored. It means it's one thing to come to the realization that I have a lack of knowledge and skill set to lead my team in achieving the next level. It's another thing to know where to start in addressing that. Okay, so the first cause category to explore, that's why I had you circle 2 cause categories earlier, so your brain doesn't jump to something else. Out of those 2 cause categories that we had circled, if you recall, one was people management and the other one was environment. I felt that people management was the first one to address because people management actually is responsible to address environment. Okay, so the cause category to explore was people management. So I'll walk you through the corrective actions and then I'm going to ask for a volunteer to help complete so everyone can complete it. The potential corrective actions that you take, so you don't just stop with identifying this, but you move to fixing the hole in the boat. The potential corrective actions came from the answers to the why questions. So these potential corrective actions weren't just, well, wow, what do I need to do to fix this? They come from your answers that were uncovered in your why questions. So to deal with egos and conflict, nepotism, lack of trust, fear of the empty seat, unprofessional team, these are the corrective actions. Well, we're going to need some professional development coaching. What's another potential corrective action? We're going to need a business growth strategy. Because when you develop a business growth strategy, you have to address some of those other undesirables. And we need to establish some meeting agendas and rhythms because that's what goes along with having a professional team. You're meeting consistently. Okay, so those are just 3 potential corrective actions that I came up with. And so the last one, again, so that you don't get stuck there, but you know where to start, define what you'll do next to drive results. The next step here for his business was invest in a management consultant and inform the team leaders. And no, I'm not suggesting that I have a hammer and a management consultant is the answer to everything. But there may be based on the problem or undesired effect you're solving, you may end up needing, let's say it's a marketing challenge or undesired effect. You may need to seek out a marketing specialist, whatever the case may be for the undesired effect you're solving. So that was what it was going to take to drive results. And the moral of the story here is that we did grow revenues from 3.7 million to 5 million. We did increase, so that increased revenues 35%. We increased his profit margin 10%. We developed his team professionally through professional development coaching. We grew the office manager into a general manager, and the owner achieved his goal. Remember, winning, he achieved his goal. He dealt with the dirt and he was able to exit on his terms and his price. And that just happened 2 months ago. He finally was able to exit on his terms and his price in the middle of the pandemic because he was ready to deal with the core problem, the core root cause, and make the investment in getting it solved. So now, as we prepare to round the corner here, we are going to use our last 8 minutes. I am going to ask Lisa, if you can help. If there is a volunteer who would be willing to come off of mute and allow me to help walk you through this so that everyone can see this is not difficult to do, and we can actually get this done in these last few minutes. Is there a willing volunteer?
Please raise your hand and I can take you off mute. If you'd like to volunteer.
Be brave. Come on, someone who really wants to solve their undesired effect right now.
Use your hand raise tool. Anyone? Oh, here we go. We have Ashley.
Oh, good morning, Ashley. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. So thank you for being a willing volunteer this morning, and let's knock this out of the park real quick so everyone can see that it's not difficult to do. So can you please start by sharing with everyone on your winning results worksheet? Winning results worksheet, you with me?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so which one on your growth catalyst, which is more true for you? Did you want to have or achieve something, or did you want to stop something from happening?
I wanted to achieve something.
You wanted to achieve something. So I say that to everyone because you can see on the screen, it says compare your initial problem A with your growth catalyst. Your growth catalyst is that which is more true. So I only use this as a checking point, Ashley, to make sure that when we define your initial problem, that it lines up with what you said you wanted. Okay. So what did you say was your initial problem A? Oh, and which fishbone are you using? Strategy fishbone or people fishbone?
Strategy.
Strategy. Okay. What were your 2 cause categories that you circled?
Process, policy, and measurements.
Okay, awesome. And what did you write as your initial problem A?
Where did I write?
The undesired effect that you wrote on that strategy fishbone.
Oh, I don't have a plan.
Lack of a plan. Okay, everyone following along. Lack of a plan. So here we go, Ashley. Why do you not have a plan? And we're writing these answers down on your sheet.
Okay. I haven't written it down.
Because okay, why haven't you written it down?
Because I haven't thought about it to come up with a plan.
I don't have a plan, so I haven't written down my plan. So no, let's make it more specific. Why, as in the example I gave you earlier, the CEO had a fear of an empty seat, right? So why haven't you written it down? So could it be, let me help you. Could it be that you think you have to have all the answers before you write it down?
Yes.
Okay, because I think I need all the answers first. Now, can your brain see why that's a challenge? Because you won't have all the answers first.
Yes.
Okay, because I think I need all answers. Okay, now why do you think you need all the answers?
To move forward.
Because you feel that I can't move forward if I don't have the answers. Would that be correct?
Yes.
Can't move without answers. Now, if you look back in your history of doing things, have you ever been able to do things without all the answers before?
Yes.
Yes. So what makes this different? Why is this different? Why do you feel you need all the answers this time to move forward?
I don't know.
Oh, well, we won't stop there because you're getting ready to have a revelation moment here. So if you have confidence in yourself and you've been able to move forward before without all the answers, what makes this time different?
It's something new.
Because it's something new. Okay. Okay. Now, for example's sake, you may not have written all those down, but I did. So for example's sake, for everyone, 5 whys, sometimes it doesn't take 5 whys. Sometimes you may land on your root cause in 3 whys. Sometimes you may have to go to 6 or 7. But for the sake of time, I feel that Ashley's at a good point here because it's new. Okay? Did everyone follow that? Because it's new is really the root cause of her issue. Because it's new, she doesn't have a plan for it. We can go further, but we'll stop there for now. So let's just stop with the because it's new. So Ashley, thank you again. Now let's go to your winning results worksheet so we can wrap this up. Okay, so get your winning results worksheet, please.
Okay.
So you had what's more true is that you wanted to achieve something. What did you say that you must deal with this time to create the opportunity to win? What was your answer there?
Create a plan 1 to 3 years ahead.
Create a plan. Okay, because you haven't had a plan before. You've done things before and accomplished things before, but you haven't had a strategic plan for what you're doing.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's go to section 3, everyone. We're on growth catalyst on the winning results worksheet. So we need to get to a more clearly defined problem. So originally you said it was lack of a plan, but your more clearly defined problem for right now is, my more clearly defined problem is, this is something new. Trying to move forward with something new. You with me so far?
Yes.
Okay, and so on those 2 cause categories that you circled, you said process, policy, and measurements. Which cause category is the one that needs to be explored further out of what you said?
The process policy?
Exactly. Yes, process policy. So now if we go back through your answers to get to your corrective actions, potential corrective actions for this is, so it says your answers in your 5 whys was, it's not written down because you want all the answers. I can't move forward because it's new. Your potential corrective actions are, you are going to need to probably, number 1, write down what you do already know. You with me so far?
Yes.
Write down what I already know. Next, I would say, do any initial research on the key things you want to know. You with me?
Yes.
It doesn't mean you're going to research and get every answer, but you're going to research on the key things that you want to know, because there's some key things in there that are hindering you. And the last one would be, decide if I'm going to enlist some support. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So now the last one is, define what will you do next to drive results. So with that, what are you going to do next out of these potential corrective actions? What do you see as your next step so that you keep moving forward?
The research.
The research. Start some research. Okay. I hope that this time was helpful for you.
Yes.
And I thank you for being the volunteer, because hopefully that exercise at least help you start thinking through where to start so you don't stay stuck.
Yes. Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
You're very welcome. All right, everyone. I hope you were able to go through that. You can do the same thing. Want to take one moment here, Faith, and just see if anyone has any questions, if hopefully walking through with that volunteer helped. If there's any final questions before we go.
If you do have any questions, please put those in the chat or Q&A box, and Lisa and I'll make sure that Carmen gets that. And thank you, Ashley, so much for volunteering. We know it's always stressful to be a voice on one of these calls, so I appreciate you stepping up to the day.
Yes. There's my contact info. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Faith, and Arizona Commerce Authority.
Thank you,
Thank-
Carmen.
Thank you so much, Carmen, today. Again, anytime we can get takeaways, we love this. Thank you for offering this to people. If you would like to follow up on this session again, remember that we will post it on our website. So if you're still working through these worksheets, you can revisit that on our website later today. So without that, we hope we see you tomorrow at our special session for leveraging outdoor dining. But until then, thank you again, Carmen from Champion Business Consulting. We are very appreciative. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.